Hi there, my name is Nicole Hibbert, and today I am going to be going through this literacy remediation presentation with you. So first of all, before we get started, we're going to go ahead and do a quick introduction. So I taught preschool for 4 years, and then I taught first grade for 6 years. This is going to be my seventh year in first grade, excuse me. Then I was also fortunate enough to have the opportunity to teach English to school-aged children in Africa and India. I was also born and raised in Nebraska, and I have lived in Arizona for 3 years now. Now, before we begin discussing remediation strategies, we need to make sure we have a clear understanding of the 5 components of literacy. So, first, we have phonics. Now, phonics is the relationship between letters and sounds, and what we often hear associated with this is the alphabetic principle. Next, we have phonemic awareness, and that is all about sounds within words. So it really focuses on what you hear, and phonics focuses a lot on what you see. Next up, we have vocabulary, and vocabulary essentially is the understanding of words. And when students have a large pool of known vocabulary words, they're able to read more words and better able to understand different texts. Then we have fluency. Fluency is the ability to read words quickly and accurately, and in first grade we often say that it's the ability to read how you speak. And then comprehension. When discussing comprehension, we are discussing a child's understanding of a text. So that could include visualizing, it could include using context clues to develop meaning. And all of that information was found at Reading Eggs, and that reference will be shared at the end of our presentation. And, lastly for this slide, we are discussing literacy, and that means we're also discussing writing. And all of these components correlate with writing. In order to write your ideas, you must know your letters, your sounds, and how to use them. You must have an understanding of words to create thoughts for your readers, and you must be able to reread your work to ensure you are getting your point across, and you must be able to create a cohesive thought for readers to understand. And everything that we use and teach in literacy works together, and that's very important to remember. All right, so now we'll go ahead and discuss some reinforcement strategies. So first up, we're gonna start with phonics. So let's say you have a kiddo who's really struggling with phonics. One activity you could use with them is ABC bingo, and it would work just like regular bingo, but instead you would be using letter names for uppercase and then lowercase, and then eventually you could move into using letter sounds. Now for phonemic awareness, a game that you could use here to build blending and segmenting would be guess that word. So what the teacher would do would lay a handful of photos in front of the students, and then they would say a word very slowly. The student's job would be to put those sounds together, identify the word, then identify the photo in front of them. Next up, for vocabulary, a strategy you could use is synonyms, antonyms, and TPR. With TPR, we know that if you are incorporating movement into whatever you are doing, it makes it definitely a lot more memorable for students. And then as far as integrating synonyms and antonyms, you are also going to be exposing your students to many more words versus just the one word that you would have with your single vocabulary word. And then for fluency, a strategy you could use here are fluency phrases. So this way, students are doing repeated readings, they're building their confidence, and they're building words in their word bank of known words. And then for comprehension, you could use buddy reading. And while buddy reading, students are going to be building their fluency as well. But after a partner reads a page, they can either share a summary or a new piece of information learned. And then the buddy has the opportunity to either agree or disagree because blah, 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 various reasons. And then finally, we'll go ahead and share an activity for writing. Now, writing, this activity is one that I have done over the past few years, and I've really got a positive response from my students from this. So it's daily writing. Now, how I incorporate this, for example, would be through bell work. So let's say I put a photo of a pool up under my document camera. Well, students are given X amount of time to write about anything related to that pool. Maybe they've never been in a pool. Maybe their grandma has a pool. Maybe their dog fell into a pool once. Anything related to that. So students are having an opportunity to write daily, and they're having an opportunity to write about something of interest to them. So next up, we have all these wonderful strategies, but it's also important to make sure that we are assessing and progress monitoring. So by providing progress monitoring and assessments, we teachers are able to check for understanding. We can know what students learned and what areas they may need additional support in. And then by taking a unit test, we're able to evaluate what was retained over a period of time. And of course, we can analyze tests to see what students are ready for next in their learning. Now, that's a lot of data, and it can be very overwhelming to think about how to track that and how to keep all that information together. So one thing you can do is student tracking. And by having students be in charge of tracking specific pieces of data, it makes them accountable for their own learning and helps them to become invested. And then personally, I also recommend data folders. And by using a data folder, you can have all your information in one location. And then it's very easily accessible for your students as well. And then all of this information I will share the resource that all of this was provided through. So if you have any questions about assessment and progress monitoring, you can find that information on the references at the end. And that's same for those different strategies that I was talking about on the previous page as well. All right, so next up, I am going to go ahead and share an online resource with you. Now, the resource I'm going to share, eSpark, it's fairly new to me and fairly new to my district, so I'm sure there's quite a few untapped gems that I am not aware of yet. But basically, what I've experienced so far is students are going to take a placement test, and then they're given lessons for any area of support that they need. And then the website is so amazing because it provides instructional videos, games, independent work, and then it also provides the teacher with a progress report on the skills that students are working on each week. And it can give you suggestions on where to go next or how you can support as well. So I highly recommend checking that out. All right, so next up, and this is really important, we're going to talk about how the reading literacy specialists can help support. And you know what? The answer is in numerous ways. So these are just some of those. So that could include observation, co-teaching, modeling a specific lesson or a new strategy that you might be unsure of. It could be planning together, talking through new ideas, providing resources, and many more. And what's also important to note, support is going to look different for each individual. So whatever is needed, it certainly can be figured out. Now, as promised, I have all of the references used throughout today's presentation, and you are more than happy to use any of these. And thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a nice day. Thank you.